All right, it is 7 o'clock, so I will call the September 19th board meeting to order for White Bear Township. We have agendas tonight. This first item on the agenda we've just done. The second item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. We need to add one item at the end. Let's put it under added agenda items to call a special board meeting for September 29th to attend a Chamber of Commerce Awards luncheon.
And also the one that's on the supplement.
Yeah.
So there's two meetings to call.
Oh, yeah, okay. And then we're gonna have call a special meeting for, can we do this in one motion? Or, we'll do that when we get there, I'm sorry. Well, there's
Well, that's on the
special meeting
consent
for
You have to add it.
9/23. Oh, I see what you did. Okay, all right. Never mind. All right, so with that one addition then, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? The agenda's approved. Is there a motion to approve payment of bills?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to pay bills. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, any opposed? Next item is to approve board meeting minutes. We had a special town board meeting on August 26, 2016. Are there any corrections or comments to make to those minutes?
I saw none. I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor of approving the August 26 special meeting minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And then the regular town board meeting on September 7th. Any corrections to those minutes?
I saw none.
Is there a motion?
A motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, September 7th board meeting minutes are approved. Item 5 on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have 6 items now. Steve, could you read those, please?
Yes. Consent agenda item 5A is the Bear Scare Fun Run. In accordance with the Township Special Event Policy, approve the joint Otter Lake Elementary / Lincoln Elementary School Bear Scare Fun Run on October 29th, 2016, from 9 a.m. to 12 noon from Hammond Road to 9th Street via Otter Lake Road. Item 5B, approve a special 3-dog license request at 4195 Lakewood Avenue. We're going to call a public hearing for Monday, October 17th, 2016 at 7:10 p.m. Item 5C is appoint Heidi Johnson to a 3-year term on the Economic Development Advisory Board to expire April 30th, 2019. Item 5D, proclaim Sunday, October 1st, 2016 as White Bear Area Senior Housing Awareness Day. Item 5E is to receive the construction activity report. And item 5F is to call a special town board meeting for Friday, September 23rd, 2016 at 11 a.m. at the Township Administrative Conference Room, 1281 Hammond Road. Make a motion to approve those 6 consent agenda items with discussion for A.
Well, you had a question on
Yes.
5A?
Item 5A involves our special events policy, and it should be noted that the language in the certificate of insurance for the township is not exact as required in our special events policy. The town planner is aware of that and is working on a new certificate to identify the, so it states the town of White Bear, its officers, employees, and assigns. He's working on that and has been confident that he's got a new certificate coming. So I guess I have to ask the town attorney, can we approve this as is?
Subject to the new certificate.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion on 5A through 5F, that on the consent item to approve that with the subject of the certificate clarifications on item 5A.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Item 6 on the agenda is old business. We have a public hearing at 7:10. Why don't we go down to 7F, movie in the park?
Okay.
Deal with that. And Bill, are you gonna talk about that?
I am.
Or Steve?
I am.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
I gotta find it. I took my tab out here.
Page 145.
144.
I'm getting there. Okay, this won't take long, I hope. Earlier this year, we had a movie in the park night, and it was very successful with Twilight Zone Outdoor Cinema Services. They were using it as a training opportunity for their staff, and having said that, they provided basically a no fee other than the normal expenses we would incur if we did have such an event in the park. And it was successful from the town's perspective. We had quite a few residents show up. Food Shelf got some collections out of it. And Twilight Zone Outdoor Cinema has asked to do another one. And the park board reviewed this in detail at their last meeting and felt that it was a worthwhile event to do again with minimal costs. And they would prefer to do it the first weekend in October. Again, it would be a family movie, yet to be approved as to what that would be. The proceeds, or the money, would come out of our Township Day Fund after we paid the expenses for the Township Days, which was last weekend, and add back in the revenue that came in from that. There's a budget allowance still of $9,800. So there would be no additional cost from for this event. It would cost, we figure, $700 to do that. So I guess that's what the park board has asked the board to consider, allowing us to do another movie in the park. It's coming up quite quickly, so I told Tom I'd bring that up tonight. And as liaison, I'd recommend we go ahead with that as a community event.
Just a couple
Yes.
of quick questions. You mentioned the first movie in the park was food shelf activity too? Are they gonna do that again with
Yes.
this? Okay.
The intentions are to do that again.
And in October, the weather starts to get a little dicey, so October 1, is that a primary date with October 15 as a backup? or-
Yes, that was the preferred date, was October 1st, which they've already agreed to if we move forward.
Okay. All right.
Is that just subject also to weather?
Yes. We would incur some costs, just with the advertising, et cetera, but there won't be any other costs than that, so.
Anything else, Ed?
Nope.
All right, seeing as how this comes from the park board, Steve, you wanna?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion based on the park board review and recommendation, approve the cost of holding another movie in the park event at Polar Lakes Park for October 1st, with a second date, if that doesn't work out, for October 15th, with funding from the Township Day budget.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, it is 7:10, so we can go to item 7 on the agenda under new business. And we'll have to come back to item 6 after that. So, item 7 is regarding the sewer line replacement in the southeast area. If I can find it. There we go.
We're gonna be showing it against this screen, so you might find it easier to see from over there. Can you see it okay?
You want a motion
Okay,
to
so
waive the reading?
Yeah, is there a motion to waive the reading since we have properly notified this hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Jim, this is your part of the presentation?
Yes. So.
Now, we're talking about 2 activities tonight. One is regarding a resolution to order the improvement And the second will be a resolution to order preparation of the plans and specifications. Okay.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, this was the letter that was sent out to all of the properties affected by this project. It meets all of our notification requirements. Everything was advertised as required. This activity covers the Southeast Area Sanitary Sewer Rehabilitation Project. And to give a little bit of a background, we put together a feasibility report, a draft one, that had all the information for the project. Back on April 26th and May 3rd, the township held an informational meeting where we invited all of the people affected properties to attend that activity. We had a good turnout. This was the notification letter that was sent out, calling out those dates for that informal meeting. Tonight's presentation is the official process for the project. What we wanted to do is to make sure that what information we had prepared to do this sanitary improvement project met what information the residents, the property owners needed out there. So if we had to do any further adjustments, we could do that. We did receive a lot of good positive feedback about the activities that we are proposing to do. We completed that feasibility report. We brought that back to the town board. They accepted that, and that's where we are at the next step here, where we're holding the public hearing for the project that will improve those old sanitary sewer lines that we have out in this area. So just kind of going through the areas that we'll be talking about. We'll go through the project area, the existing conditions of the system, what the actual improvements are to the sanitary sewer, and then the costs associated with that. But just as a visual for the project, we have Bel Air Avenue running along the west portion. We have White Bear Lake, we have the township limits, and County Road F cuts right through the middle of it, with half the project being north and half the project being on the south side. This is all White Bear Township properties out here. The colored areas on the map, this shows the existing sanitary sewer pipes that we have out there. The pipe sizes for the main line are both 8-inch vitrified clay pipe and 10-inch. So these are old sections of pipe that was installed, which was the common practice back about 50 years ago. They are short length pipe. They're about 3 feet long. They have held up very well, but we have gotten to a point where, as the public works, as we go through and do our annual cleaning areas, we find more and more cracked pipes, more and more areas that are starting to fail. Just in the last several months, a year or so, we've had a couple of emergency corrections. I think some of you probably have witnessed them along Bel Air Avenue, where the pipes actually failed. We had to call a contractor out, dig down to correct those pipes because it stopped the flow through the pipes, and fix that. When you are reacting to those situations, that's a very costly process, not a very efficient way to correct the pipe. And we'll show you just what some of those issues have been. So this is just looking down through a camera that we have run through the sanitary sewer main line. And again, this is where the main line typically runs down the middle of the right-of-way, down the middle of the street for the most part. Your services from your homes come in and connect into this mainline pipe. And this is what carries all the flows down through lift stations, through larger and larger pipes, and ends up getting treated down at Pig's Eye. So it goes a long, long ways. What you can see through this camera here is the water line. And this is flowing just below half full, but you can start to see here where the separations with the joints from the pipe, and you start getting roots, other growth that is coming in that pipe. I have some more pictures of this. Here you can see with at a time of lower flow, the water is down at this portion. You also start getting buildup in those joints, and here's a significant one. So when the township is out doing their inspections, we do televising at intervals, we do flushing of the system, but at a certain point, the flushing activity where we run water through there to flush the pipe out, it can only do so much, and areas like this have to have further equipment work. We've had it where once we get certain buildups, we have to hire contractors to go down and they actually grind out these activities that are building up in the system. Here is another picture of showing a significant area, how it's coming down from the top of the pipe. And as the flows build up in the pipe, these become restrictions, and it also becomes where other material in the pipes start to hang up. We also have this where the buildup occurs at the bottom of the pipe. If the joints have gaps or other debris starts to build up there, you can see how it blocks the water flow. So all of these items cause issues where as long as we can keep the flow going, you don't notice it at your homes, but these are the type of activities that can increase over a short period of time, cause a substantial backup, and then as the pipe is plugged, that water backs up, and that is where it can back up the services and up into your homes. Also, if you have a pipe failure, as we had the last couple of years here, I mean, it completely shuts off the pipe, and then you just have a short period of time to correct that because you only have so much storage in that pipe. So overall, the pipe has served its life. We have poor conditions that exist out there, and now it's the time that we need to replace this, to improve this, or we're going to continue to have problems, and it's going to be an expensive process to be fixing piece after piece. It also is on a red alarm type of situation where you have to get out and fix it now as opposed to doing this. Also, our annual maintenance, I mean, we want to be able to go out, we want to be able to flush the lines as the small amount of buildups you can take care of that. As the issue worsens in these pipes, the amount of labor that it takes just to do the normal routine cleaning expands in time. So it becomes a costly process to the township. So what we've done is we've looked at, okay, what are the ways that we can improve the situation out there? For the most part, the pipe still has good structural use. So we looked at, do we need to go out and replace this pipe? Do we need to go out, dig it up, and put in new pipe for what is out there? And the answer is no. For the most part, with technologies that have gone through the years, what we are able to do is what we call a lining process. So with this, what we're actually doing is there are going to be areas out in the mainline pipe that need to be dug down and fixed. They've deteriorated to a point where you need to fix that. But that's a small percentage of the overall pipe. In other areas where maybe the joints have offset, if it's small amounts, we can deal with that. If it's larger shifts that cause backups, again, we'll have to dig down and fix that pipe. But overall, with this lining process, we're not having to tear up the streets. We're not out there doing a large amount of excavation. As you can see here, the sanitary sewer system is made up of, we talked about the main line of the pipe and then your services to your homes. What we have for access to that main line is every up to 400 feet is our standard distance, or as you go around bends in the roads or bends for actually the service area, we put in what you call a manhole, and this is a 4-foot diameter structure that is a vertical shaft down to that sanitary pipe.
But I might try to change the focus a little bit to make it easier
Sure.
to see. Zoom. So you can play with that to make it a little easier.
All right, thanks. And so what you see here is this is the manhole structure. So this is basically a 4-foot access down to that pipe that runs horizontally. The system, one other component is the system is a gravity flow. So that's what we're using, so that Mother Nature is what's sending the water downstream. What we're doing here is, through this lining process, we are able to take, say, if we have 400 feet between these manholes, we're taking this 400-foot long sock and we're forcing it through that whole length of pipe. So now, and I'll show, go to here. This is a sock that we are running, a continuous sock, the whole length from manhole to manhole. So it's flexible when it goes in. Once we have it to both ends, then we heat it up and cure it, and now this becomes a rigid structure, a hard, round membrane that is inside of that pipe. Very little bit of the pipe diameter is used up with this. You can see how thin this is. So you start off by running this down through the whole length, and you end up with this product going from manhole to manhole. So now what was something that is full of cracks or joints or different things, we have one continuous flowing system once again. And unless we had to dig up for some major issue, you won't even see any construction between those activities. And when this process is done, you can see, I mean, there will be large equipment sitting out in the roadways accessing these manholes, but that whole 400-foot length, there won't be any disruption. The best part about this activity is it really minimizes the impact to all the properties in that area. So you will be able to be coming and going through your driveways, through the streets while this is taking place, as opposed to, I'm sure everybody's experienced the construction when it's actually tearing up that pavement. The activity the contractors can do several hundred feet a day, and we do it from manhole to manhole. So if there's straight stretches, we just did one this last year, and we did, 600, 700, 800-foot lengths of running this sock through. So we didn't have any obstructions to life in between that. These are long days. They start at 7 o'clock first thing in the morning. What we do is we have to notify the people in that stretch that we'll be working to, if you can have the showers, the dishwasher, the clothes washing, all that stuff either done by then or wait to the evening, because it'll take the full day. We were out working basically 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on a stretch, and it's going to depend on the length from the manhole to manhole that we do, especially if there gets to be bends. It can be a 300-foot, and then they have to stop and move their equipment because now you're running that line from at a different direction. So we're not making bends as we do this activity. Also, as we talked about, that we don't want you to be out there using your wash machines and everything, because when the liner gets run through, it's going past your service. Every home has a 4-inch service that comes from either this 8-inch or 10-inch main line. So you have a 4-inch pipe that runs all the way up to your house and to your plumbing. That is your storage area for the day. And typically that is a non-issue because there's a fair amount of volume, and again, we're talking basically just the daylight hours that we'd be out there working. So you can get your glass of water, you can flush a toilet. We're just trying to minimize that activity because there is a storage area, and this mainline pipe is all basically 10 feet below ground to even deeper. So your service has to come all the way up, run over to your house and up to your basement or the rest of your house elevation. So you have all that area in that 4-inch pipe that basically is storage while we're doing this work. Then once the liner is cured, we come back through with another piece of equipment, another remote control structure that drives down, it goes to where your service is, and it cuts out the hole again. So once we've gone and cut your service, you're back in full functioning. So everybody, by the end of the day, the main line is in, all the services are cut out, and we move on to the next area.
So do you cut it from the inside?
We cut it from the inside the main line pipe. So
How do you know where the service is?
So the question is, how do we know where these services are? And before we do all this work, the contractor runs a robot, also a camera, and we dimension everything out all the services. It'll be, 98 feet, 3 inches left, and call it out. So every service gets documented. Plus, when the curing of the pipe takes place, you get a bulge in that liner where there's pipe for everything else, but the hole, that liner bulges into there. So you got 2 ways that you're finding each of those.
Now, the buildup, the white stuff, I assume is a calcium, like a stalactite?
You wanna
Correct.
come up?
That's one of the.
What prevents that from happening
Wanna
again
come up
where
if
the
he's gonna
service
keep
has
talking.
been cut?
So the question gets into the issues of where the service is and where it's cut. This process is dealing with the main line, just the 8-inch, the 10-inch. If there is issues with your residential service going from the main line up to your house, that is not part of what we're doing here. So if there's already issues, this isn't
No,
improving
yeah.
anything, but at that
But where you
connection.
cut it, do you have buildup once again later?
No, where we're cutting the service in, you already have a joint, unless we have some specific issue right at there that we have to address. These, what we call them, service-wise or connections, we haven't had really any issues with that. If there is one right where the cutout is, we'll address that at that point, but for the most part, that's not a problem.
What I'd like to do is have Jim go through his entire presentation. I think he's most of the way through it. I know, not that were not good questions, they were. But I would like to ask that Jim finish the presentation, and then we will have an open period. And we'll have you ask your questions, make your statements at that point. And we'll also ask, for those people that do have questions or statement, when you do come to the podium, identify yourself and your address. So if we can do it that way, I think it'll help us. So go ahead, Jim.
All right, so then again, this brings up that the township has the ownership for the main line that runs throughout the entire township that's serviced. The actual services from the main line to your house, that's private, and that's part of your ownership. We are not doing anything with those services. If you think you may have issues, or you have had issues in the past, I know people have to call out Roto-Rooter or some entity to clean a plug in the past. What we will do is we will provide the contractor's information that would win this project. That was the low bid that gets awarded by the township for this work, and you could contact them to see what it would cost if you're interested in doing this activity for your services. So the lining process can be done in a wide range of pipe sizes. We're doing the main line. They also can do this for your 4-inch service from the main line to your house if you want to, but that would be a side item that you would work with the contractor, work a cost out with them, and do that completely separate from our project. This project, we have, and I'll go back to our service area and show. This whole area, all these are pipes of different degrees of having a severe problem, to having average, to having heavy, to having light, and you can see it's throughout. And all of this system comes together comes out here in the southwest corner of the area and then flows into larger and larger pipes. So everybody is really part of a big system here, and you're all basically connected in one way or the other, because there could be issues downstream that can affect the upstream area. If you look at this, does it look like there's 29,100 feet of pipe? So we have about 5.5, 6 miles of pipe in this area that we are going to be putting together for the project to improve, to do this lining activity. Again, this is made up of both 8-inch and 10-inch main line. Kind of walking you through the process here. So we've held the informal meetings. Tonight we're here to present all the information. We'll get to the costs and the assessments here shortly. Based on the public hearing tonight, it'll be decided through the town board about moving forward. If this project were to move forward, I'll walk through a time frame. Overall, to do almost 30,000 feet of pipe is going to take, if you use 600, 700, 800 feet a day, I mean, we're talking 40 to 50 days of work. But your impact is really just going to be when they're in the street that you are by. So, you know, one day they'll be doing work on this stretch, the next day they will be moving throughout all this area. So really, you probably will only see a couple days throughout the whole process of activity. You'll see up front when the contractor comes out to do the televising of the system, to really get the details of the pipe and what work we will have to do and get all those service dimensions to where everybody's houses are connected to. There'll be some manhole work. There'll be some areas that we will have to dig up the street to fix the pipe, but the vast majority of the activity will be back to seeing that piece of equipment kind of moving from street to street, doing the actual lining activity. So even though this is a lot of days of activity, your inconvenience will be a very short period of that. So now we get into, so what is 29,000 feet of pipe cost? And we are looking at a $1,713,000 project. That is the entire process of putting together the plans of specs, going through construction. We have the assessments for this activity, the township costs associated with that. That will be broken down to, and I have some additional slides on here, $2,500 per parcel, per service out there. So if you take the 452 residential parcels times the 2,500, you come up with the $1,142,500. Plus, we also have 5 businesses out there, and I'll show this breakdown. that have multiple units per their business that they will be assessed. So between all the businesses and the residential, that amount comes to the 1,142,500. The township, through your payments on an annual basis, we have the sanitary sewer fund, and that will cover the amount above that 2,500. That 2,500 is what the township has used with the previous, similar to previous assessments we've done in the township already. We just did some lining work on the south side of White Bear Lake a couple years ago. I'm not sure if you've seen that activity or not. And again, just as a side note, all this pipe in this area is put together in 1965. So here's just another breakdown. So again, the residentials, everybody is based on 1 unit per parcel per house. That's the $2,500. So that's how we come up with the 1,130,000 of that assessment. We also have the commercial lots, the Bel Air Auto, the Bel Air School, the dental clinic, the South Shore Trinity Church, and the storage building. Based on the size of those and what we call residential equivalent units, they get the same 2,500 per unit rate, but they are rated per what they would be an equivalent to a residential unit. So this Bel Air Auto is equal to 1 residential unit, but the Bel Air School, through all their uses, they're actually basically 26 times what a residential unit would use, and therefore that their assessment is based on that. Same thing with the dental clinic, the church, and the storage building. So this project, if it were to go forward, the time frame would be to go through plans and specifications. We prepare those. We would go out for bids, have contractors give us numbers. Hopefully by the end of the year, either in December or January, we would be awarding a contract to a contractor. They will have basically the majority of 2017 to do that work. They could be starting in January, February, March, but they would need to be done by the fall. So a year from now, the project would be getting wrapped up. And the time period is, we want to give the contractors enough time so that they can fit this into their schedule and that the township can receive the best prices for that work. Because this is a lining project and we're basically down 10, 12, 15, 20 feet down in the ground, this work can be done with cold temperatures in the winter. Our last sewer work that we did along the South Shore, we actually did it when there was ice on the lake, because that became a good access to the tough to get to sanitary sewer that was running along the shoreline. The ground down below is warm. When you get down to 10, 15, 20 feet, that's warm. The lining process is a warm process, so they can actually do this work when it's cold, I'll say winter. Obviously, when things just get in that 10, 20, 30 below, we're not going to be out there trying to fight the elements, but this is something that does not have to wait, like you see street construction stuff. It's not that they have to wait until May or June to do this work. So if we go through this project, we'd have the plans, the construction. We'd be standing here about this time next year saying, the job is done. We are now going to be assessing that $2,500. You would have the option to, through your own finances, whatever that may be, to pay that $2,500 and be done with it. Or you could allow it to be assessed through the township, and that would be put on at a 10-year payoff. And at this point, projecting a year from now, we anticipate this on the high side, but whatever that rate becomes, using a 4.25% interest rate, if you took that 2,500 with your principal payments over the 10 years, add the interest, you'd be looking at starting up in the high 300s down to almost your $250 per year. These would be placed on your property taxes. So if you did that plan, you'd be looking at a final payment 10 years from now that you would have paid $3,110.94. So the township offers this 10-year payback plan. If you have other means or other financial uses, possibilities that you want to use, that's fine. Basically, we hold the assessment hearing for all of the parcels. Once that hearing is held, you have your 30 days to decide to pay for it through your own, or anything that was not paid at that point would be placed on your property taxes for the next 10 years. I think that completes my overall presentation, and I would ask questions of the board at this point before opening up for all comments.
I'll ask, initially, does the board have any questions or comments?
We've been reviewing this at our exec meeting for some time now, so I think we're pretty comfortable with, Jimmy did a nice job.
Yes, and I agree. We attended the two public meetings that we had with the neighbors, and I think we had lots of questions that were asked through those, and we got the answers needed, so I'm comfortable where we're at.
And I think you can see, you know, as Ed has mentioned, we've been talking about this for quite a few months here, so we've been over a lot of the details. But as Jim showed you, there are sections of the system that are in pretty sad shape, and Dale, we've had a few failures out there in recent years too, and that's never pleasant. It's not like the whole system's going to implode next week or anything at all like that, but Jim had mentioned, you know, initially the system was installed with an expected 50-year life, and we've gotten that plus more, so the timing is now to make some decisions. So.
And I'm glad you say that. I wanted to expand upon that if you were to put in a brand new pipe, you'd be looking at achieving 50 years or more for a life expectancy. Doing this lining process is the same. We expect to have the same length as if you were to put in a brand new pipe. So this isn't a short-term fix. This is basically putting in a brand new system.
Thanks, Jim. So at this point, then, we will open up for public comments or questions. We'll open the floor up. Again, we ask that you use the podium. The mic is live. Just identify yourself and your address, and then make your statement or ask your questions of the engineer, or us if you'd like to do that.
My name is Jim Morrison. I live at 3876 Lakewood Avenue. I have some questions, and I might be a little late to the party, but I hope that you'll at least hear what I have to say. I'm a plumbing contractor by trade, And for what it's worth, I had a friend who had a plumbing business out in Maple Grove, and he put this Permaliner stuff in. He showed me it firsthand. His stuff's amazing. I would vouch for it. It's incredible material. That being said, let me ask you this first of all, maybe to whoever assessed this. Are roots a problem in this system, or is it more just the buildup that's causing problems? Are there roots growing into the clay tile?
I can answer that. There's roots in the system. We clean it every year because of that. That's
Kinda-
one of the reasons, and it's causing some. We have to be careful how much we clean, how much pressure we use, and with the root, because can cause damage to the pipe because of this condition.
Okay, I kind of figured that. I have as much as I like the lining system, I'm not sure it's the best the situation. Is this too late to be bringing this up and to voice my argument about it or not?
That's what we're here for.
Okay. A couple years ago, I kept having significant problems with roots in my own system at Lakewood. So, my subcontractor finally told me just dig it up, and so I did. I rented a backhoe, pulled it all the stuff out, and I got about 10 feet from the property line, and I saw where the cast iron ended, and the clay tile came into my lot line. And it's 6-inch clay tile, at least at 3876 Lakewood. It's not 4-inch, but. The inspector looked at me and said, "Are you gonna replace all that cast?" And, well, now that I got it open, yes, I wished I hadn't dug it up, but I did. The problem was at the clay tile. Significant roots had grown in between the two pipes. And I investigated about tearing the street open and patching my little bit between the lot line and the main. But upon investigation, it's at least $800 or more minimum to patch that 10-foot square. So I left it. Within a year, I had backups of roots. I ended up bringing a jetter out there to blow through that 10-foot stretch between the lot line and the main. And I'm concerned that if we put the liner in and we cut those roots off from the source in the main, they're going to gravitate to all of our little lateral branches in our lots, and they're still gonna find their way into the system. Have we considered this? Is this a legitimate concern, or am I just being paranoid?
Jim, Dale?
Sure, Jim?
Sure. Mr. Chair, members of the board, I mean, we are evaluating the whole system. For the most part, yes, there are roots. If there is a significant issue with those roots, this is areas that we would replace the pipe and fix that. For the vast majority, we have very little significant intrusion, and when we go through and we grind open anything that would be already protruding, this structure, when we put this lining in, that is just as if it was a new pipe and a solid pipe. So we don't have any issues with the locations that it was at there. Our whole system has tree roots throughout the area. They seek the moisture and everything. So we don't see that by improving this is gonna divert the issue to try to follow services. I mean, they are basically using whatever source they have in the area. So I don't see that this is creating any additional issue for any of the other pipes.
I just, my concern is that it's gonna cause problems in that little section that's 50 years old. That was laid down when the main was laid down, those lateral branches that come in. And we're not addressing those, because those, you're telling us, these are our individual problems, because we're the owners of those pipes, but they're under your street. So I would, if I could, just at least suggest, I mean, you probably have this all set in stone and everything already, but maybe part of the budget includes at least some of the cost of having those permaliners come into my house and lining my system. Because it's kind of unfair that now I'm gonna have root problems and you're not. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't wanna sound like I'm being a jerk, but do you understand what I'm trying to get at? My suggestion that maybe there should be something else considered besides just the main. Because I'd hate to think that we're spending this much money and there's not really solving the problem.
Say, Jim, did you have when you were investigating your line, did you price out having a liner put in yours, which would have alleviated the problem for you?
About $1,800.
And I don't know, Jim, do you think if the contractor gets a number of residents that are, do you have any idea if that's a fair price?
And Mr. Chairman of the board, we find all situations out there. I mean, some people have already done replacement of pipes, other people haven't had any issues. The lengths of the service is all different. Some people, if you have to dig it up and it's landscaping, I mean, to try to say any specific number. And plus, we did not get into trying to have it where you're out there replacing all these services that, you know, unless you have issues, may not even need it in the first place, so.
Some of those out there new enough to have plastic, or would they all be cast iron or?
I'm sure there's a collection of materials. I don't know if Dale has anything further, but we're finding different material out there.
But you understand our dilemma then, how do we mix and match and try to figure out everybody's individual issues also?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I'm just, trying to think of a big picture of, is this something we need to concern ourselves with? Is this gonna come, are you gonna have a bunch of disgruntled residents 2 years from now? Like I said, I don't know if I mentioned this, after I got my thing dug up and repaired, within a year, I had root problems. Within a year. And, I mean, I had brand-new pipe 60 feet from my house to the lot line. And that little bit of pipe that's left under the road, is that gonna be a problem for other people? I'm just asking a question. I don't know.
Dale, have you had many instances or issues down there? Have your crews been exposed to the residential line failures? Are there many? Are there a few? Are they?
There's a few, and they've, some recently have lined their service lines down there.
Okay. And Bill, basically the policy, the current policy, the historic policy is the division of the responsibility basically stops at the main line.
Yep, I think Jim understands. I think the audience understands that as well.
I'm
Yep.
really thrilled with it, but I understand it.
Yep.
That's an argument I have with every
Yep.
municipality.
And believe me, it's not the first time we've heard it, and it won't be the last, but it's something, it's one of those issues that you gotta deal
That's
with.
the policy, I understand that.
I thought it would be worth mentioning that when the town lined the sanitary sewer line for the folks that live on the lake side of South Shore Boulevard, their sanitary sewer ran between the lake and the backs of their homes. That was done a couple years ago. And the engineer provided contact information for those property owners to get individual bids from the contractor for lining their sewers. And after looking into it, none of them chose to do it. So that goes to the point of your description of what you experienced is clear. What we're finding, though, you might be special.
Well, I blame that big old cottonwood tree in my front yard. That
There you
thing,
go.
I had roots this big. It was awful. So, but it's there now, and I'm not taking, it's the biggest tree in the neighborhood. So, I'm guessing it's a unique situation. I just hope that it doesn't come back to haunt the rest of us. That's basically why I came here. I wanted to say that. Having some insight on this thing, I think it was worth at least bringing up.
And I thank you for that. I think it is worth bringing up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, Jim, that brings up a question. The inside of this new lining, is that more of a silicone, slipperier also texture, or is this going to improve the flow, is what I'm getting at? Even though you're getting rid of, obviously, all the obstructions.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Chairman's board, the friction level goes down. It'll be a better flowing, a less rough condition than is out there currently.
Can I say something to that? My friend.
You got to come
I
back up.
need you to come back to the fight.
My friend in Maple Grove, who had the plumbing company, he showed me that product. It's like the most solid pipe, more solid than anything I know out in the trade. It's incredible, and it's like a rosin kind of thing. It looks like a cast, something you'd put on your arm.
Jim, you didn't bring that sample,
I-
did you?
Smooth as silk inside. And what my understanding, once they get that liner in there, then they put a bladder in there and pump it up to push it as tight as they can. And then they take the bladder out. It's this great big, humongous tube, balloon basically, and they blow it up. And that's kind of what pushes it in, and then once it sets, then they take the balloon out. And it's set so solid, and it makes it nice and smooth. It's as smooth as I'd say as PVC pipe is inside. Nice, and like I said, no friction, much of any at all.
There would be no joints every 3 feet.
Correct.
Any other comments, questions? Going once, going twice? Okay, then we'll close.
One thing to add to the public portion, the township did receive 4 resident, five now, comments through emails or contacts. Those are in your packet, and all those were in favor of going forward with the project.
And I received one voicemail today regarding the same question that Joe asked about service line, and how the town would approach that, and I just, as we had stated, they could work with the successful low bid contractor for the lining.
I'm gonna ask a question, don't take it wrong. I'm not suggesting that we add anything to the scope of the project, but Jim, as the process goes forward, and do they see via cameras, television, video cameras in the process, do they see any root buildups as they're actually installing the lining?
Mr. Chairman of the Board, again, the process will be where they start off by running the camera through before we do the work. So every inch of all this pipe is going to be visually inspected, and it'll be determined, what improvements we have to make, if we have to dig up pipe, if they have to run what we call a router, where they go and it grinds off anything that's coming through. So that whole stretch of pipe will be cleaned out completely before we
So
do.
There'll be a video record at the beginning of the process to identify any of those roots or deposits.
Correct.
And if there's something severe, it can be noted.
So, yeah, if it's severe, we'll actually have to probably dig it up. But all that will be addressed so that we have a clean flowing pipe with no intrusions when we do the lining activity.
Maybe I'm opening up a can of worms now, but a thought occurred to me that the camera's going down the pipe. Can they turn and look up every service just to see as far as they can see or not?
Yeah,
And be
and
able to give the residents at least a heads up and say, hey, look, it looks like you may have tentative problems in the future or whatever.
that's a good point. Yes, we do have that ability. We will turn the camera, but you are looking into a small black hole tunnel, and your distance is minimal. We're able to determine that if there's any issue within that immediate proximity, but we're not even seeing 5-10 feet down a service, so there's nothing that we're going to be determining how the condition of any individual services are.
Okay, with that then, we'll close the public comment portion of the meeting. I guess we can close the public portion of the hearing. Is there a motion to close the public
So
portion?
moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? All right. So we have, actually, we have 2 action items here, and we have, basically, the town engineer is recommending that we proceed with a sanitary sewer lining improvement. And there's 2 items to proceed. One is a resolution to order the improvement that the town engineer has just described to us. It'll be improvement number 2016-2, real original, but that's what it is. And the second will be a resolution to order preparations of the plans and specs. And as Jim said, that's part of the process. There's a number of things that will be happening then during the next several months to a year. Is there anything else you need from the board then, Jim?
No, and
Okay.
just, with the process itself, all the residents will keep you informed of where things are going as we move forward, so you'll be well aware of where things are at.
I'm looking forward to seeing a good article in the White Bear Press describing it all, so you'll have that. The township has been pretty good about sending out notices for the benefit of the residents. And the township has also done a lot of work expanding its social media contacts, Facebook page and website. So there's another source of information. So please keep up to speed on the whole project.
The resolutions for you to consider on pages 78 and 80
Okay.
of your packet.
So the first resolution then is a resolution to order the improvement.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate, I take Jim's issues to heart, but like I said, we've gone through this through
Yeah.
numerous board meetings and realizing that this is the best application for what we need to repair now. And when we understand that some of these issues are going to be responsible to the residents if you've got lines to your house, but we need to get this main part corrected, so. So stating that, I would move based on town engineer review and recommendations that we adopt the resolution ordering improvement number 2016-2.
Is there a second?
I'll second that resolution motion.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. Unless there's any further discussion, I'll call the question. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the resolution ordering improvement has been approved. The next action item requested is to approve a resolution to order preparation of the plans and specs for the project.
And then again, I'll move based on town engineer review and recommendations that we adopt the resolution ordering preparation for plans and specifications, and this is for the southeast area sewer relining.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And just for the records, Joan, those resolutions are on page 78 and 80 of the packet. Okay.
Thank you, folks. I hope all
Thank you.
your questions were answered.
Thank you.
All right, let's go back to item 6 under old business, and that's regarding town hall improvements.
The town offices today at 9 a.m. and at 9:10, we received bids for 2 different projects related to the town hall. The first project was, received bids at 9, was for the town hall landscaping and site improvements. We received 3 bids. The lowest apparent bidder, Pember Construction, had a base bid of $89,460.40. We did receive, again, 2 other bids, one for $121,254, another for $111,668. At this point, our recommendation is for the town board to receive the bids. And the action already taken earlier this evening is to schedule a special town board meeting for this Friday to review with staff and the project designer some of the alternates that were included in the bid. Skip Architect worked with us to establish an alternate for what we're calling the east concrete sidewalk. And the board can decide whether or not to include that alternate. And a second alternate is the actual plant material around the town hall. And the third is plantings around the flag plaza. So, again, the recommendation is to receive those 3 bids and to consider awarding on Friday. The second bid, the project was for the repair of the town hall building itself. That'd be actually re-roof and some structure repair and exterior repair. We received 1 bid, and so that was Husnick Homes for $57,711. It's reasonably close to the engineers or to the town's estimate. I again recommend that the town board consider receiving that bid and then discuss it further on Friday at 11.
Okay, so this is in response, basically, this is a response to the town board direction to solicit bids, and we've received them. So I think, like you pointed out, Bill, We're really not in a good position tonight without the planner or designer, project designer here, and other staff people to really go into details, but we can receive the bids. And then we can consider the bids in detail at the special meeting that was set for Friday morning at 11.
Yep, and particularly the town hall repair. Some of the line items on the town hall repair need to have a little further discussion. Our building inspector, Mike Johnson, has agreed to meet with the bidder and to try to detail out some of the repair work so that there's a more precise task, a list of more precise tasks on Friday.
Any questions from the board?
No.
All right. What's the pleasure of the board here?
I'd make a motion to receive the bids and have further discussion at our special meeting at 11 a.m. on Friday of,
You want to move to receive both bids, or do you want
yes,
to do them separately?
receive both bids. No, I think both.
Okay. Does that work for the staff?
What's that?
Does that work for staff, just to
Receive.
get one motion for both bids?
Yeah.
Both receipts, okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded to receive the bids for the town hall landscaping work and for the town hall building and roof repairs. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion is approved. Item 7B on the agenda is regarding the Pine Hill Project Improvement Number 2016-1.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, the Pine Hill project is being funded by the developer. They put up a cash escrow to start off the project with $1,671,125. That was done at the start of this process. We received bids. C.W. Houle was the low bidder. The first change order, right at the time of bid, we had added $37,000 for additional dirt work that was found out to be needed. So we were at a bid of just over $830,000. We have had some additional sanitary sewer work and some County Road H2 work through this process. That added another $26,000. So currently, the construction project is at $856,478.39. The overall project is substantially complete. We have costs covering all the township expenses through the engineering, attorney, legal, administrative. All of those we have been watching and tallying as we go. At the last meeting, when the project was under construction, we did a review of the project. The bids came in below what we had estimated at the beginning, and the township requires an additional 25% of the developer on top of that. At that point, a month ago, we were able to reduce their $1.6 million escrow by $300,000. Now that we are at the kind of the end portion of this project, we've really eliminated our unknown costs or extra amounts. You'll recall that the township is participating in this for 50% of the looping of the water main on County Road H2, also covering the services to the residents on the north side of H2. That's about another $94,000. So basically, they had additional 25% on $1 million is about $300,000. Our project came in below, and through it, we are still a good $300,000 below. So still keeping in contingency for work to be done, still keeping in all of the costs that we anticipate that would be incurred by the township. We feel that we can reduce that escrow amount by an additional 320,000, so bringing down the total developer amount to $1,051,125. There is one portion of the project that is gonna be an additional expense, due to the MnDOT right-of-way and the trail proximity on the south side of that. There will be a retaining wall constructed on the north side of that trail. It will be less than 4 feet tall, but it could be substantial, in the neighborhood of 200 feet long, of varying length. We did receive a communications, written documents to Bill Short from North Oak stating that that will be expense that they will cover. They will do the construction and of that activity. So that will not be part of the township's cost. So
Jim, the reason for that, is that because the trail would have been too low otherwise along the pond?
the original design had grading going into the MnDOT right away to get the slope that we needed. And now that right-of-way line is a no-touch
Okay.
in MnDOT. So what would have been a gradual slope coming down to the trail now is gonna be a vertical wall
Cliff.
of 2-3 feet, something of that neighborhood.
So the balance of the escrow is more than adequate to cover the remaining costs.
Correct.
We
The
got a couple
town,
$100,000
the-
margin there.
yep, the township has been paying the costs associated to date. And we are still have escrow amount for everything that we project, plus a contingency on top of that. So we're comfortable that we will still retain all the necessary funding
Okay.
without the township getting caught in it.
So the basic recommendation then is to approve reducing the escrow by $320,000 to the $1,051,000.
125, correct.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
So, you mentioned this, I'm just curious, this trail thing, they expect to do that yet this year?
They were still working on it when we came to this meeting tonight.
Okay.
And
The what, Steve?
the trail.
The trail wall.
So, yes, we actually have been having meetings with contractors for the retaining wall. They are working on the trail now. They'll be out there tomorrow. We are already starting to put in gravel base of portions of that trail. So it is moving along.
Are they gonna do the final lift this year, or they wanna wait?
The answer today is yes. We have had
Yes, maybe.
just fluctuations back and forth on the time frame of that final wear course, but at this point, we anticipate doing that yet this fall.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the board here?
I'll move based on town engineer review and recommendations that we approve the reduction of the Pine Hill escrow to the North Oaks Company in the amount of $320,000, bringing that balance down to, what do we got, $1,051,125. Noting that the remaining fund balance held by the township has the available funds to cover the remaining cost of the project.
More than cover that. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. If there's no further questions, those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Item 7C in the agenda is water tower maintenance for the Northeast and Hammond Road water storage tanks.
That's my,
Is that yours?
yes, it is. Good evening, Town Board Chair Kermes and Supervisor Pridon and Persick. I have before you a matrix with a number of three different quotes from three different contractors. Unfortunately, not all of them had quoted everything consistently, so I'm gonna have to do a little explanation of their proposals. But if you look at the far right column, the total quote, That's really a number that I'm presenting to the board. I'll go through and explain each proposal, but, so we have, the first proposal is from Water Tower Clean and Coat. And to clean the interior of both the northeast tank and the Hammond Road towers, and to install a tank mixer, and it's a, their system is an air bubble mixer, and that helps with the thermoclines and the stratification in the tower itself, the water and ice buildup. This pushes water from the bottom up in a column and keeps that tank mixture going on the water tower. And then also the replacement of the mud valve that on the Hammond Road tank, currently the valve on the mud valve, or the valve that drains the bottom of the tank, and you can drain sediment out or whatever, is inoperable, that handles inoperable. So we're looking to replace the valve itself so we can drain it monthly at the bottom portion without having to drain the tower to clean it. So the total quote from Water Tower Clean and Coat is $21,900. I got a quote from KLM Engineering and a clarification on their $2,800 for, I have it listed under cleaning both the northeast and Hammond Road towers, but that only includes cleaning the Hammond Road tower and replacing the mud ring valve. Just the labor and materials to do that. It doesn't include the actual valve, which Water Tower Clean and Coat does. And their tank mixing system, to put them in both the north, east, and the Hammond Road towers, is at $23,000. In all these proposals, or I'm sorry, in these first two proposals, Water Tower Clean and Coat and KLM Engineering, they don't include the electrical connections, so electrical would be on top of that. And I don't have a number for that right now. Again, as I mentioned, the mud valve through KLM Engineering will be part of the cleaning of the Hammond Road tank. So their total price, and that doesn't include the cleaning of the interior of the northeast tank, is $25,800. And then protective coatings, classic protective coatings, the number you see there in the first column is just for cleaning the Hammond, and it's a number that includes cleaning the Hammond Road tank and installing a mixing system, so that's and replacing the valve, the labor and materials for that is $39,840. I asked them to provide a price for the northeast tank to clean and install a mixer. So the two, I've got that price today, and that's $38,270. So the total quote from Classic Protective Coating is $78,110. I apologize not having that before the meeting, but again, it's a time thing. I would like to get it done because I'd like to have coordinated with our annual fall flushing. So I've been actively working to get quotes, and it's, as Jim can probably attest to, it's not always easy and clear, but hopefully I provided clarity to what I'm proposing. And what I'm recommending is that we go award the quote, or approve the quote to Water Tower Clean and Coat for $21,900 to complete cleaning both the interiors of northeast and Hammond Road towers, install air bubble mixing system, and the replacement of the mud valve. And their quote includes the actual cost of the valve also.
I'm sorry, the actual cost of what?
The valve,
The
the
valve,
mud
okay.
valve.
Okay.
All three different contractors, I'd still have to go through the Department of Health for, they'd have to get an approval of their installation. But all have had their systems installed and approved by the Department of Health in other communities within Minnesota.
And then the electrical supply and connection work is gonna be in addition to that quote?
That is correct, and I do not have that number.
Do we have an estimate what that would be? Or?
No, I'm sorry, I don't have an estimate. It's the difference between the two, the proposal, the mixing system by Water Tower Clean and Coat, the electrical work would be at the base of the tower because it's a air injected into the riser pipe that creates that bubble that carries the water and mixes at the top. So that electrical obviously be significantly less than having to run the other type mixing system. You have to run electric all the way up to the top of the tower and into the tank.
Is that electrical work something that we would bid separately then?
Yes, we get a quote separately.
Rough idea?
Well, a rough idea, I guess, I'm gonna guess on the application at the base of the tower, I'll say $2,000.
Okay. So we'll
I think I'm comfortable with that number.
Okay.
Jim, we've used water tower cleaning and coat before.
Yes, we've used the water tower clean code. We've used them to dive clean our towers for the last 2 years.
Okay.
And they've done a great job, and Jim can maybe attest to that. They provide records of their dive experience and notate inspection notes that we provided to our consultant
And
engineer.
also, were all three of these bidding the same brand of mixing valve?
No, the KLM, the one by Water Tower Clean and Coat, they're the only contractor that has this air bubble mixing system in the region. The other two were providing the Solar B mixing system, they're a company out of North Dakota that has them. They each had a different model, but and that's the one where they have to run the electrical all the way to the top of the tank.
Is one better than the other? I guess that's where I'm going with.
No, I don't believe from a operator from my perspective, no.
Okay. I was just curious because of the huge price difference. I don't know if there's some Cadillac of mixing valves.
Or they don't want to work.
Yeah, well, that could be.
maybe this question is for Chad. On that bid from Water Tower Clean and Coat, there's a special note about, if, like, the certificate of insurance and additional insured provisions. We're supposed to increase the bid by $300. Is there any provision we need to add on this insurance certificate?
We have the standard-
If so, should we include that now?
Yeah, the standard insurance required by the township, believe it's $1 million, Jim, is that right? $1 million liability, $1 million automotive.
Well, this has to do with the additional insured provision, and I don't
Right.
know if we require anything special. And if we do, we should, so you can consider it, but maybe include that $300. It's still a lower bid, but,
Right. I guess we can get their insurance certificate, I can have Chad review
yeah,
it.
without seeing it, I don't
We
know
need
what
it.
it's for anyway. Chad?
We will have to, one thing that's not part of this is the contract will be signed with Water Tower Clean. We know KLM actually provided their contract, but we'll have to draft a contract with Water Tower Clean and Code, and that would include all the insurance information you request. But your point is well taken. We have to have the additional named insured language in there.
So we probably,
We're drafting the contract, so we'll get the insurance requirement. in there.
Well, we talked about, Dale and I talked about that before the meeting, and that was the plan.
And you've looked at it, and Chad's reviewed the standard contract that I use in
Right.
previous, and he's comfortable with it, he and Pat. So I just, and insurance is the town's standard requirement, so if we require more, all they're saying is we require more than what the standard is.
well, my point was if it's something that we need to consider, we should include it with our proposal acceptance of the low bid of 21.9
Oh,
plus 3.
yep.
Just to cover ourselves so we don't approve something that's less than it comes out to be if we,
Well, and Dale's correct, we do have a standard contract form already, but it would be a wise idea to include as part of the resolution language indicating that we'll have to, with subject to verification that all the proper language, insurance language is included.
okay. I'm good with that.
Any other questions?
Nope.
All right. So, Public Works is recommending that we go with the Water Tower Clean and Coat proposal. What is the pleasure of the board here?
Well, I think based on Public Works Director's review and recommendation, I vote to approve the quote from Water Tower Clean and Coat for interior cleaning of the northeast and Hammond Road tanks, the installation of a tank mixing system in the northeast and Hammond Road tanks, and replacing the mud valve of the Hammond Road tower in the amount of the base bid of $21,900 plus additional $300 for certain clarification on the insurance certificate, with the funding for that total coming from the water operating fund for a total of $22,200.
But, yeah. Why don't you just word it to not exceed 22 too?
Okay, so change not to exceed
Okay.
that amount.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? That motion is passed. Item 7D, again, is a public works item. That's regarding a permanent employee status.
Yep, I can speak to that. We've had a probationary employee, Matt Schneider, who started back on March 14th. He's, been a great addition to the township, and this is just a follow-up to the ending of his probationary period, making a recommendation to the town board that we appoint him to a full-time, I'm hopefully using the right correct, position with the town as a maintenance worker.
Okay, any questions? I think I've seen Chris out and about, and from my minimal observations anyway, he seems to be doing just fine, so.
Or Matthew.
Or Matthew, what did I say?
You might
The
have
other
seen Chris-
Matthew.
you might have
The
seen
other
Chris too.
Matthew.
The other Matthew. I'll make a motion based on staff review and recommendations, appoint Matthew Schneider to the township service as a permanent full-time public works employee.
There a second?
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded to appoint Matthew Schneider to Township Service as a permanent full-time public works employee. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Item 7E on the agenda is regarding ordinance number 91. Who's gonna talk about that one?
I will,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Right.
The,
There's a little confusion here on the titling of it. Did you and
Yes.
Bill talk about it?
yes, we
Okay,
did,
all right.
and, yes, the words employment-related should be removed.
Okay.
I thought they had been, but apparently they slipped through, so definitely those words have to be removed. It should be noted for the record that the 1,000 feet limit included in the ordinance does allow suitable residential opportunities for any person who's governed by this ordinance. So we're not precluding people from living in we're not precluding anyone from living in the town. They do have residential, there's housing available for them, I guess what I'm trying to say.
And they can live here, they just have to comply
The
with.
statute,
the
yes. With
statute.
the ordinance,
And
with the
there
ordinance,
are-
I'm sorry.
And
the
there are
ordinance.
adequate
Right.
domiciles, places to live and work, okay.
Adequate supply of housing stock available
There
to
you
them.
go. So how's that title going to read then?
It's simply gonna read an ordinance establishing exclusion zones and prohibition of certain activities.
Okay, so employment-related are the two words to be deleted.
There are stricken, yes.
Okay. Okay. All right, any other questions from the board?
No, I think we've spent a little bit of time talking about this, and I think the Public Safety Commission looked at this, and they're satisfied that this is a good for the township. I think it's great protection for our citizens that live here, so I don't have any other questions.
No, we reviewed the map with different amounts of 500, 1,000, and we tried to stay consistent with surrounding communities. So I think that's where that 1,000-foot came into play. So I would move as liaison to the Public Safety Commission, and based on their recommendations with the town board and the town attorney review and recommendations, that we adopt ordinance number 91 as being an ordinance establishing exclusion zones and prohibition of certain activities. Prohibition, sorry.
Is there a second?
Second,
Just a quick question, Chad, when would this be effective then?
It'd be effective upon publication of the summary.
Okay,
Now,
Okay.
I'll also move based on Public Safety Commission, Town Board, and Town Attorney review and recommendations that we authorize execution by the town chair and the town clerk.
I'll second that.
We didn't vote on the first
Oh.
one yet. so-
Oh,
You sure we didn't? No.
Those in favor of the first motion to adopt ordinance 91, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Any further discussion on authorizing execution? If not, those in favor of authorizing execution by the town chair and the town clerk, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the third item,
All right, then, also, I would move to authorize publication of this ordinance in the White Bear Press.
is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That completes the original agenda items. We had one added agenda item to call a special meeting for September 29th at, what time was that, Bill? 11 o'clock or 11:30?
11.
11 o'clock? Okay, at the Chamber of Commerce luncheon,
Oh, I'm
awards
sorry.
luncheon?
That was 11:30.
11:30 registration.
Sorry.
Okay. All right, I'll make that motion to call that special meeting.
You want the place? I think that was the White Bear Inn.
Yes, at the White Bear Country.
Yep, 4940 Highway 61. Yep,
Right,
thank you.
thanks. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to call that special meeting. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? That motion passes. And item 9 is open time. I don't see anyone here for open time. Item 10 is to receive agenda materials and supplements.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Item 11 is adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second?
Second.
We are adjourned.